Hey there, chemistry students. So we've been working on our stoichiometry problems. We've been doing the grams to grams problems. And today what we're going to do is we're going to do an activity where we apply solving these types of problems to an actual chemical reaction in the laboratory. Fun. Okay, so I call this the grams to grams lab. In this lab, what we're going to do is we are going to conduct this particular reaction. This chemical reaction. We are going to take some copper and some silver nitrate. The silver nitrate looks a little weird. Usually it's white. Mine's a little bit blue. So every year what I do is I recycle it. There's probably a little bit of copper contamination in it, which probably makes it blue, right? But anyway, we're going to take some copper and we're going to react it with some silver nitrate, and it is going to produce silver and copper nitrate, right? And what we'll do is we'll measure how much copper reacts, do a stoichiometry problem, and predict how much silver will be produced. We'll then collect the silver that was produced in this flask by filtering it out, and then we'll dry it out, weigh it, and see if we were right. So let's get to this. All right, to start off, I have my lab instructions. You probably have a digital copy, and you should fill out your digital copy as I go through the lab. I have my lab instructions, and it says you will be given 1.5 grams of silver nitrate. And I have here in this here test tube about 1.5 grams. The exact amount won't matter for this lab. So here I have about 1.5 grams of silver nitrate. And it says, and a length of copper wire. So I have my copper wire. I'm going to get a length of copper wire, maybe about this long. Got my wire cutters here. Okay, now it says add our silver nitrate to about 30 milliliters of water, it says, and stir until it's dissolved. So I'm going to take my silver nitrate. I'm going to put it in a beaker here. Try to get it all out of the test tube. Put that test tube aside, and we want about 30 milliliters of water. And again, the exact amount isn't that important. It should be about 30 milliliters. I'm using distilled water here, not water from the sink. About 30 milliliters. So I'll put that in there. And we're going to give that a chance to dissolve. Okay, pretty well dissolved in there. Okay, the next direction here, number 1 on the paper, it says weigh your copper wire on the scale and record its mass below. This is very important. Before we do anything with the copper wire, we need to weigh it. So let me go weigh it. I've placed my copper wire on the scale, and it's 1.62 grams. And so I am going to record its mass under number 1. It was 1.62 grams. 1.62 grams. 1.62 grams. All right, now it says bend the wire into a coil. I like to just kind of wrap it around my finger a little bit. Don't cut off your circulation. Pull it off. Bend it into a little coil, maybe something like that. All right, just kind of bend it around. And then what we're going to do, it says using a stirring stick to suspend the coil in the silver nitrate solution. Just throw it in there. And then it says add 3 drops of nitric acid. Just kind of helps it go along a little bit faster. So we'll just put a couple of drops of nitric acid in there. And you can see already I don't know if you can see on there, something's happening to my wire already. right, now it says to allow this to sit for 15 minutes. So we are going to come back in a little bit and check on it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it has been about 15 minutes, and you can take a look there and you can see that there has been some changes to my wire and to the liquid that I put it in. 15 minutes ago, the copper wire was copper wire, and you can see that some silver stuff has grown on it, and this silver stuff is in fact silver. The liquid has become very blue. That's because the copper nitrate that's produced in the reaction has a blue color. So you can see that the liquid has become somewhat blue. And if I were to leave this in here longer, the liquid would become even more blue. So pretty neat. But we're gonna wrap it up there, and we're gonna continue on with our lab. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so now what I need to do is I need to remove the wire from the liquid here. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a little swirl around to knock a bunch of the silver off, because I want the silver to stay in the beaker. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to take this out. Oops. And I'm going to kind of spray it down with some water. In this bottle here, I've got some water, and I'm going to try to spray off as much of that silver as I can. And then we need to dry it off. It's probably preferable to let it air dry. I'm going to put it in a paper towel though, because I don't want to wait. So we're going to dry this off. And I'm now on point number 2 on your lab handouts. It says to weigh the copper wire on the scale again. And since some of the copper has reacted in here, it should weigh less this time. So let me go ahead and put this on my scale and see how much it weighs now. It weighs 1.43 grams. I'm going to write that down. 1.43 grams. So a few minutes ago it weighed 1.62 grams, and now it weighs 1.43. It weighs less because some of the copper is reacted. Point number 3 asks us to subtract those numbers and see how much copper reacted. So 1.62 minus 1.43. See, I carry 1. 0.19 grams have reacted. 0.19 grams have reacted. And that takes us to point number 4. Point number 4 says if blank grams of copper reacted, how much silver would be produced. So we're going to put that number that we just calculated in there, 0.19 grams. And we're going to do that stoichiometry problem just the same way as we learned how to do stoichiometry problems. Let's go do that. All right, so if 0.19 grams of copper reacted in that reaction, how many grams of silver will be produced? Let's figure that out. Okay, if you're doing the lab yourself and just kind of watching the video for, step by step how you do it, then you might have a different number of grams of copper reacted. So for me doing the lab, I have 0.19 grams. So let me grab my marker and start my problem. 0.19 grams of copper. Okay, now I am going to go to the periodic table and I'm going to look up the molar mass for copper. And it is about, if I recall correctly, about 63. That's right, it's about 63.5. So I'm going to put 63.5 grams of copper. And then, of course, on top of that fraction, I'm going to put 1 mole of copper. These cancel away. And on the next fraction, I need to go to the chemical equation. put the coefficients from the chemical equation in here. So on the bottom, I want moles of copper. So looking at my chemical equation, it looks like it is 1 mole of copper. And on the top, I want moles of what they asked me about, which was silver. So looking at my chemical equation, it says 2 moles of silver. And these here cancel out. Finally, in my fourth fraction here, I'm going to go back to that periodic table, and I am going to add up the molar mass for silver. And it's just silver, so I'll look it up there. Silver, if I recall correctly, is 108. Yeah, it's about 108. So 108 grams. Can't go on the bottom because I need moles on the bottom. So I'm going to put it on top. And then, of course, I'll put 1 mole of silver on the bottom. All right, let me go through and do the math. I have 0.19 grams times 2 times 108 divided by 63.5. And what do I get? I get about 0.65. And that's grams of silver. So now, here is my bold prediction. I am going to go get that silver that was produced out of the beaker. I'm going to filter it out of the liquid. I'm going to dry it out. I'm going to weigh it on the scale. And let's see if it weighs 0.65 grams. Now, you should, on the line on there, show your stoichiometry problem and how much you predicted will be formed, right? If you started with a different number than me, then you should end up with a different number than me. All right, let's go get that silver out of the liquid. Okay, so now we want to get the silver out of this liquid here. The silver is the kind of sandy or dusty or powdery stuff that's on the bottom. It might be kind of silver in color or kind of gray in color. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it into a flask using a funnel. Okay, so I'm going to put my funnel in my flask, but I need to put a filter paper in there. So I'm going to get out a filter paper to filter the silver out. And the way you use a filter paper is you take it and you fold it in half. And then you fold it in half again. So it's kind of a triangle with a curvy top. And then you open it up so that, you know, there should be 4 layers on the other side, on the inside. Get 3 layers and 1 layer. So it opens up into a cone type of shape. And then you put that inside of your filter, put a little water on it, and it'll stick on there. All right, so now I am going to take my silver in here and I'm going to filter it. And it usually takes a little while to filter things. So we're going to sit here and wait for this to go. And if I can figure out how to time lapse this video, I'm going to do that. Otherwise, I'll cut it off right here and come back in a little bit. All right, that's pretty well filtered there. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to take the silver out of here. I'm just going to pull out the whole filter paper with the silver in it, and I'm going to put it in a drying dish. And I'm going to leave that sit overnight. And when I come in tomorrow, I'm going to get the silver out of the filter paper. I'm going to weigh it, And we're going to see if it weighs 0.65 grams. If you're doing the lab in class, you'll leave this sit and dry overnight, and when you come back to class the next day, then you'll be able to weigh what you get. So until tomorrow. All right, it's the next day here. We're gonna get our silver out of there. We're gonna weigh it, and we're gonna see if we get what we predicted. Yesterday we predicted we were gonna get 0.65 grams of silver. Now, I doubt we're actually gonna get that much. Usually you get less than what you predict here. It's usually hard to get it all out of the filter paper, but we're gonna see how we do here, okay? So I'm gonna get my silver out. Try to get as much as we can out of there. It's usually some you just can't get off the paper. So let's see how we do here. Okay, let me put this on the scale and see what we get. Okay, I got 0.59 grams. I'm gonna write that down on the back of my handout here, 0.59 grams. So we got a little bit less than we predicted, which usually happens. It's hard to get every bit of silver off of the filter paper. So, you know, sometimes, or most of the time actually, you get a little bit less than what you predicted. All right, so there was our grams to grams lab. Hopefully that helps us to be able to do grams to grams problems. Until next time, take it easy.